It's 5 o'clock, so please rise and join me for the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Dr. Funk is at the state superintendent meetings, and so Mark Grossglass is warming the chair, as he says. And Mark Schody is unable to make it due to traveling, so we'll go on with the agenda. Item number 2 is approval of today's agenda. Is there a motion to do so?
I'll move approval.
Okay, the motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor of approving the agenda signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action items. Approval of the memorandum of understanding with Elderly Education Association. Is there a desire on that?
I move to approve.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor of approving memo of understanding with Elderly Education Association signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving on to the study session. First, we have our elementary counselors.
I'm just going to introduce two of the school counselors who are here today. Grace Pfeiffer, who is at Hawthorne Elementary, is one of our new elementary school counselors, and Christina Fry, who is at Halverson. And I know last time you had some questions about the school counselors, so we thought what better way to then bring them here and just share where are we going with this position. So here they are. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having us. So I'm Grace, and we just wanted to come and make sure we had a chance to kind of tell you guys what we do. I think that some people maybe know what a school counselor does, or what that title maybe is, or what it might mean, but some people maybe have questions about what that looks like at the elementary level, because it is very different from at the high school level. So we wanted to make sure that we had a chance to come and share with you guys kind of what we do. We found this fun little kind of graphic to kind of explain what we do, because there are lots of different things that we do, lots of hats that we have to wear, as I'm sure a lot of us know in education and just being in the school and a member of a school community. There's lots of different roles that we play, lots of different things that we do. We're advocates, we're teachers, we're mentors, we're, helping and collaborating and being enthusiastic supporters of students and the school, and all these different great things that we want for kids.
And just wanted to do just a brief kind of overview of what the elements of a comprehensive school counseling program looks like. And this is from the Aska Model, which is the American School Counseling Association, and Minnesota has adopted their model is their model as well. And so the elements are the accountability, delivery system, foundation, and management system. And so, underneath each of those, of course, there's tasks and things that we develop. And then the major themes are leadership, collaboration, systemic change, and advocacy. And basically what you see us doing is the delivery system. And so we're going to talk about what the delivery of school counseling looks like, which is what we do.
Yeah. And so at the elementary level, it's very different. Maybe I'm sure a lot of us are maybe more familiar with a high school kind of school counselor or guidance counselor model, which is very much college and career readiness and prep, getting kids, ready for college or if we're taking those next steps, vocational school, anything, what they might be doing after they graduate from our school system. But so at the elementary level, we really get to work and build a foundation for our students and to help to teach them skills and get them ready to be successful learners and overall like productive members of society. So what we do, like what you will see us, you know, doing on a day-to-day basis, we teach classroom guidance lessons, and we just got really, really great, the second step curriculum that all of us will be using, and we'll be teaching that on a semi-regular basis in all the different classrooms. So, and second step focuses on like skills for learning. It talks about emotion management and empathy, so teaching ways to kind of help calm your body down when you get big emotions, empathy, and then it teaches problem-solving skills. And then we also got a really great piece of that was our bullying prevention unit. And so with October being Bully Prevention Month, a lot of us are going to be teaching and starting those lessons in the classrooms as well to kind of talk about what bullying is, being able to recognize it, and who to talk to about it, and what we can do to help to stop it. But school counselors, we are able to work with all students. So a way that we can do that easily is by teaching those guidance lessons. We are able to kind of hit all of those, all of the students that we work with in the school. But then if there's some other specialized areas of needs, we will do some small groups. So maybe focusing on things like friendship skills or anxiety, anger management, social skills, to target a more area of need with students who need some extra work and practice and development of those skills as well. We also will individually meet with students as a need arises. Within the school setting, though, it is something that's kind of more like short-term, very solution-focused counseling with students. It's, you know, we're not doing therapy in the schools, but it's just maybe problem solving or just working through some maybe major or minor issues with students, and then if they need further, you know, help or support, kind of finding those resources for families as well. But then also a huge piece of what we do too is just collaborating with teachers and parents, being a good resource for those mental health pieces, areas that students may struggle with. A lot of us are part of like the problem solving team. We will go and be a part of like conferences with students that we work with on, but just on a day-to-day basis, you know, collaborating with teachers and students in their classrooms and how we can help and where there's need, and then also, you know, making sure that we're touching base with parents and talking with them and seeing how else we can help to support their child and make them a better or a more well-rounded student if there's something that's kind of getting in the way. That's how I kind of like to explain it to my elementary kids. It's like, my job is to help you to be the best learner or the best student you can be. If there's anything kind of getting in the way, I can help to kind of problem solve.
And the school counseling model in the last 10 years have went from, or even from, you know, like when I was in school or when you were in school, it's really gone from a reactive approach to more of a proactive approach. So instead of waiting until, you know, the student has a meltdown, what we can do ahead of time to teach them coping skills and things like that, so that doesn't happen. Let me see, are we on to the next one?
Yeah, that's what we do, and then
So these are some resources that would be available to us. The Aska National Model, and then the next one is the implementation guide, which kind of guides us how to build that program, and then making data work. And that's kind of a big push too, and everywhere, to show that with what school counselors do, how is it helping students? So being able to show that what we do is helping students. And with that, I had another thought, but it's leaving. But these are some, and also with the school counseling program being comprehensive in nature, we want, you know, we're meeting with the high school counselors, I think, next week. And so what we're doing at the elementary school, how does it help students when they're in high school? You know, what are some things that we need to make sure that we're doing? You know, so it goes from elementary school to middle school and then into high school, so it's comprehensive in nature. Just like, you know, a math curriculum or, you know, that they're learning the skills in order.
Okay.
So are there any questions or comments?
I have a question.
Yes.
How often do you meet with parents, actually?
Depends on the need. I've been making phone calls with parents, as like things have come up or there's been, you know, a situation at school or a kid wanted to come and meet with me or something maybe happened in the classroom. But we will, like pull parents in.
We might be a part of a
Just
conference.
depends.
I had a conversation with the teacher of a student that the attendance is really bad and the tardies and late and trying to figure out what's going on with this, you know, with, and a second grader, I mean, the problem is probably not the second grader, it's you know, it's what's going on at home, what's happening. And so I said, you know, if she does come in for, let me know when her conference is and I'll sit in on that. And a lot of times is the school counselor can kind of take a softer approach and to, you know, and be more of an advocate for them. Like, okay, what can we do to help you? It's not the principal saying, you got to get to school every day. What are you going to do about this? It's not the teacher saying, here's all the homework they missed when they were gone. It's the school counselor saying, what can we do to help? So, you know, the conferences, you know, in my past experiences, since this is October, so we've been in school a month and a half or so. But in my past experiences, I would have parents or families call me on a daily basis, whether it be they're having problems at home or they got questions about the classroom or they need help to find out what resources they need to pay their heat, you know, I mean, or that they can't afford to buy their kids shoes or they have, you know, no money for Christmas. And I know that a lot of that in this district is on the social worker's plate. And so it's kind of interesting how that is all gonna pan out because as I see what the school social worker is doing, I'm like, wow, I did a lot of that stuff in my past positions that didn't have a school social worker. So I feel like I can just really focus on, you know, on the students and, you know, the classroom guidance, the groups, the things like that. Does that answer your question? Okay.
Thank you. You mentioned the second step program, and I have a bit of an advantage here because I heard this presentation at the district curriculum committee meeting last week, and you described it well there. But that is as I understand it, a formal curriculum which is part of the student schedule on a regular basis, and we have a counselor in every elementary building now, and so you people then are the ones that present that curriculum, which includes, I would assume, a lot of those practices that you described in terms of what it is you do.
Yes, definitely. So it talks about the skills for learning, the empathy piece, so understanding your own emotions and feelings and that of others as well. Emotion management, so coping, and then moves into a problem solving. So how do we do that? And takes it, you know, pretty straightforward, and it isn't evidence-based, and there's been studies on how effective it is. And I will have to say, I used Second Step a number of years ago, and since then, they've made, at first it was a really dry curriculum. I thought it wasn't my favorite. But over the years, they've added the online piece to it, which is great, and then they've also done some other improvements, which I'm a lot more impressed with it now than, let's say, 10 years ago.
I like to say welcome. I'm very happy to see counselors in the elementary schools. And I'm happy to see that you're actually being proactive and teaching in the classrooms as well. How many hours per month or year would an average classroom have of your instruction?
Well, I think it's something that we're gonna have to kind of work on too and be tweaked as this year goes on, since it is something that's so brand new. And we just recently got like our actual curriculum that we are teaching in the classrooms. Right now, I think both of us are going into the classrooms every other week.
It's like on a rotation throughout the school year.
Yep. And
30-minute lessons.
so hopefully, as we kind of work and make this program something that is kind of a bigger or more vital piece of the curriculum too, can be something that's a little bit more of a regular basis. But right now, it's just kind of what fits best into like the teacher's schedule and kind of making that fit, and where else we can kind of take some of their time from to fit this into their busy schedules.
And depending on how many classrooms there are, and to be able to have room for individual and groups and responsive things that comes up, the parent that calls you, or the student that you need to go in, and if they're having a meltdown in their classroom. So right now, every other week on a rotation basis, so it's really not even twice a month, because it just keeps on rotating every other week. So we're gonna see how far that gets us in the curriculum this year, and seeing that we didn't start right away in August. So if we're starting the second week of school, then that's a few more times or lessons that we get in there.
Mm-hmm.
So every classroom then would see you every other week?
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
And how are students referred to you for group or for individual meetings or sessions?
Some of it is the classroom teacher, maybe noticing that there's an issue. Maybe the student is having like a hard time with some of the other kids in his class, or is really having a hard time kind of, it's just dealing with like math, and maybe not like the problems themselves, but like the, to persevere or to like keep going, some of those kinds of things. And then some of it is also, we get referrals from parents as well. And sometimes other staff members, or if other people maybe know that something is going on with the student or with the family, might refer them to us, and then making sure that we, reach out to families as well for meeting with a student or talking with, or want to be kind of addressing some of these issues, and making sure that families and parents and everybody's kind of on board with that as well.
And the referral can come through the problem-solving team too.
Yep.
So if we're talking about a student and problem-solving team, and they're like, one thing that the student really needs is some self-regulation. Well, then we can, Chris, do you have a group that you're, just about ready to start one? So it can come through there. So really, the student could even self-refer, parents, teachers.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. And what kind of licensure does elementary counselors have?
We have a master's in school guidance and counseling.
Mm-hmm.
My undergrad was in psychology and sociology, and then I went back and got my master's in school counseling.
So then we get like a K-12, like a school, like educator counseling license to teach in the schools, or to work
Thank
in the
you.
schools. Mhm.
Thanks.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time, and thanks for all you do to help those kids.
Okay, thank you.
Fantastic.
Thank you
Thank
so
you for
much.
having us.
Next, we have the Southwest Middle School expanded course options. Steve.
There we go. How's that? Sorry. They're meeting with the high school people and meeting with the other elementaries, and we have a little gap there in the middle, so it's something we can have conversations with in the future. But we do have the social workers, but we don't have the necessarily have the counselors, so that's a good thing for us to look at. So I'm here to share our new schedule that we've moved to this year, and our expanded course options. We had 3 teachers that presented to the DCC, and I decided to, if you wanted more information and you wanted me to bring them to like a full board meeting maybe, but I didn't bring them tonight with their busy lives. They did a great job presenting, so I'm just going to give you a kind of a shortened version and answer questions as best I can. So we have transitioned from that 6-period day to a 7-period day. As a faculty, we spent a lot of time addressing what would be the best thing for us to do in terms of those additional needs that we have in writing, reading, and math. And that 7-period day, after studying, doing site visits to St. Louis Park, examining and looking at all kinds of different options, the 7-period day was the one that was the most feasible and the most easily transferred to. So, and we also kind of wanted to be, as much as we could, schedule-wise in line with where the high school is at, just because of those similarities between us and them. So we wanted also to create a more flexible schedule, and that would also give us flexibility when we had big changes in grade level numbers, and then also expanding those curricular options. So when I came to Southwest, we had students had elective opportunities. They had a quarter of FACS, and they had a quarter of industrial tech when they were in 7th grade. 6th grade had the art. So 7th grade didn't even have access to that art. So we wanted to expand and give kids more opportunities, which also would help us in those additional hitting that reading and writing and math. So the staff went through this process. John Double and I guided and studying and looking and thinking, and I think the turning point I told the DCC was when we had a staff meeting one day, and Laura Queasley, who's one of our math teachers, was over there with her head down and her tongue out, and she was trying to figure out what the best schedule would be, and I think that getting them to that point really showed that they were thinking and digging hard. So we're gonna kind of fine tune and keep going with those offerings. So here, I guess I could have made it a little bit bigger, but that's all right. So I divided them up into content areas. So the idea was that everybody would still have they would teach the courses that they are licensed for, and then also we would add at least a section of each in each content area. So it actually turned out to be more, and we had a lot of maneuvering to do with licensure to make sure that the person that was teaching a 7th grade course had the correct license and in that area, so that we didn't run into problems that way. But we're excited with the courses that we're offering right now. So in science, the Think Like a Scientist, Geology Rocks, and Science in the Great Outdoors. So 3 elective opportunities. How that'll pan out next year, I guess, depends on where the student interest lies when they do their registrations in the spring. Language arts, you'll see that communication 6, and then if you look over in the math, you'll see geometry 6. Those are the 2, and I put them in here. They're not really electives. They're 2 required courses that 6th graders take, and they do it every other day. So every 6th grader has an extra math scoop and an extra communication scoop, and that's every other day. So that was the big thing that we started with to make sure that we had that extra time. People say, well, why'd you call it geometry? As our math teachers were going through the standards, the things that they did not get to most in the spring was geometry. Is it going to be called geometry in the future? We may have to change that name depending on where we are, but it just made sense at this time. So that's we're pretty proud of that, having that built in there. And then we expanded the art, so you'll see drawing, sculpture, and ceramics, painting, and mixed media. And really, she was doing all of those things piled into one course, and now she's able to spread it out, and we can offer it across to more students. Even Health and Phy-Ed came up with their Lifetime Fitness, and they are doing things like yoga and breathing and other wellness type of things that they weren't able to do in the regular Phy-Ed classes. Social Studies, American Government, and Critical News Analysis. And the American Government, I know, just had a speaker in the other day, and they're also going to be going to the Capitol with the 6th grades going to the History Center on October 18th, and they're going to be taking a field trip to see the newly open Capitol. So that'll be neat. And then on the far left there, you can see the STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, which I think is sort of the most exciting, and with this semester having fundamentals of design, and coding and game development, and then next semester will be circuitry and electronics, and then robotics and engineering. So these courses, along with the digital, I spoke to you probably last year or the year before about digital citizenship and multimedia. Digital citizenship, the next one is the 2.0, so we have all students in 6th grade get digital citizenship, and they have that opportunity to take the 2.0, which is taking it to the next level. But all of these courses are going to be doing vertical meetings with the high school, so that we're looking at alignment to make sure that we are feeding well into the, what's the name of that? Project Lead the Way, thank you. Sorry, brain fart. Were you falling asleep over there? I'm worried. I'm so, just, all right. So I wanted to say something snidely comment to you, but I couldn't think of it. So yeah, and we have a great teacher who's just super excited, and he's energizing everybody in the building, not just within that, but and reaching his tentacles out into science and math, and doing a lot of problem solving type of things with other teachers. So that is our new course offerings. Any questions? Did I have one more slide? Nope, I only had that many. So, questions that you have?
Is Geometry 6, is that a new, or is that 5 repeat? I mean, is that?
No, it's, what it is when they were looking at the standards, they felt like they weren't doing, to the extent that they wanted to do the geometry, which was toward the end of the 6th grade course. So it's an extension of the 6th grade class, but they can also booster that with other math, depending on student need. One other thing I didn't mention, or I did maybe, but I didn't highlight it, is through all of these elective classes, there are writing standards. So we have the Communication 6 is a lot of the speech and writing type of, or mostly writing, but not just traditional ELA. And through all of these courses, what we did, or kind of what I did, was said, okay, well, as you write this course, make sure that you have these standards in there. So they're all, it's one way that we could expand our writing across the curriculum, and we knew that was a big need for us. So.
Are the students able to select at free will, or do they need to take a STEM class in addition to another class?
Actually, we're trying to, right now, most of those courses are developed through mouse.org. We have a membership with mouse.org, and they're standalone classes. We didn't want to have them be a prerequisite type of class. And we're going to be doing quite a bit of showcasing with that class, especially when the robotics comes in the second semester. Like, they'll be out in, when we are having assemblies of awesomeness and stuff, having the robots out, just to get students exposed to it and more excited for it. So it is their choice. You also have to balance, their choices with music. If they're taking 1 or 2 music courses, that limits how many they can take. The other piece that's also we have to work in tandem with is intervention. So if we're doing math or reading intervention, it'll probably be drawn out of these, and so we're not taking kids out of the core. So that was the other thing, trying to use this as maybe a carrot for kids to maybe work a little extra hard to make sure that they can have their choices, while also getting intervention too. So.
Any other questions or comments?
And then how about industrial arts? Is that a separate class?
Industrial arts is we moved it to 8th grade. So the space that the STEM course is in is the old wood shop downstairs. So I think that fundamentals design and all of those are taking that spot, so.
Once again, I was at the district curriculum committee meeting, and I was really impressed with the people that you had there that were presenting some of these courses, and their enthusiasm and expertise and excitement about the whole project. And I was also impressed with the fact that several of these electives or new offerings lend themselves very well to students that may not be interested in going to college. And I know Ken is really interested in that, and so am I. They provide exposure to a lot of areas that don't require college education, that are fascinating careers, and so there's that career connection here too, which I was really excited to hear.
Okay, thank you, Steve, for the
Thanks.
update.
Thank you.
Now we have the Halverson Elementary update. Johanna?
Good evening. So thanks for having me. I'm Johanna from Halverson, and we're going to see the same updates or same slides that you saw from the other schools. So we'll go through that and then definitely save some time for some questions and what some of the initiatives are and what we're focusing on at Halverson. And excuse me, my voice is not doing real great, so apologize for that. Didn't know it was there. Yeah, I can do that. Okay. First, we'll take a look at our state demographics. You're probably getting pretty familiar with that. And then we'll take a look at Halverson's.
Can you just move back just for a
Yep.
second, please?
Why did it jump forward so far? There we go.
Okay.
Any questions on that? Did you have a slide prior to that? That was that's the state demographics, yes, and then Halverson's demographics.
Is Halverson have the largest percent of free and reduced lunch in the district?
It does. The numbers last year for free and reduced came out to about 73% for free and reduced. And I believe Hawthorne is 65. I'm sure she will go for that, but yep. So then this is our proficiency of all students. Math is on the left and reading on the right. And we are the bright blue turquoise color. So you can see that we in both areas declined this year.
So any thoughts on the cause of the decline, or?
Yeah, so I have been breaking apart our data quite a bit at the different grade levels. You certainly, I like to follow cohorts also as they go through. And so we have some real positive spots coming through. But not to get into a lot of details, we had a very difficult some very difficult challenges this last year with one grade level. And so I think that did, unfortunately, and we're not happy with it and we don't accept it, did affect our scores a great deal. When you do break apart by grade level and cohorts, you do see some different numbers come through, but overall this is what you see.
Even though math has declined, it looks like you're at about the district average in math.
Correct. I think our math was 48.6. And then this is the free and reduced. So with a population of about 72% free and reduced, you don't see a lot of changes, but it still is, I think, worth looking at when I break apart the scores a little more closely within our grade levels and things like that with our free and reduced population. And so this is our proficiency for free and reduced. Any questions on that?
Do you have any reasoning for the jump between 13 and 14 in both areas?
No, I really don't. It was nice to see. I believe that was, I'm trying to remember what year I came to Halverson. I believe it was, oh gosh, I don't know. Ashley might have to look up my date that I started at Halverson. I've been there, well, when did you retire? 2014. Then I think I went there in 2014. So it did jump that year yep. I came in 2014. So then we look at the growth for all of our students. And again, growth is always interesting to me. I like to break it apart. And, but this is what you see overall. The big concerning part here is the students on track. And so that really, in effect, looks at how we're closing the achievement gap with kids. And so highly concerning for us that we are not moving in the right direction with that. What we find is we make a year's growth with a very large portion of our students, and we see that summer slide, and we're making up a lot of time when we come back is when we start diving into guided reading levels and some of our other assessments that we use is that we're really doing a lot of recovery at the beginning of the year.
What does high, medium, and low growth? Is medium like a year's growth? High is better than that, or do you have any correlation?
Does it break apart that way?
It's pretty close to that. It is, high is over a year's growth, medium is either side of a year's growth, and low, of course, is, I think it's about 70% of a year's growth, but I don't have the exact percentage. But
Thank you.
How much time do you spend on average at the beginning of the year trying to recover?
Well, I guess I would generally say that it takes 30 days to get students into routines. I would say that sometimes you'll see a good 6 weeks for some recoupment to take place with students. But again, that depends on the student, and so.
Do you have
And
any?
that's general for any, yeah.
Do you have any data on like the students who went to like extended school year for, special ed, or those who went to targeted services summer school, if they had, you know what I
Right,
mean?
what their
How
loss
that,
is.
how that affects their scores, or like what their teachers say about their recruitment?
We do. We look at that when we're looking at at teacher data and where a classroom is, and then particular students. And if we're problem solving with them, we're looking at, did they go to summer school and we're still really struggling, or they went to summer school and they came in strong and are making those gains that we want to see. I don't have any data in front of me, but we do definitely keep an eye on that within the classroom groups more than school-wide.
Does it seem to help a lot?
I would say that it definitely has a positive impact on students that attend on a regular basis.
So Johanna, are you going to cover some initiatives, or do
Yep.
you want to talk about them at this
So
time?
can I just ask one more question before we move on? So this summer actually was shorter, but it looks like 2017 still declined even further. So as far as the startup amount and the learning gap during summer, are you able to draw any conclusions from that?
Well, I guess I'd have to really decide when I look at growth again. I'm balancing a challenging group for several different factors in there. But when I break apart some of the particular specific grade levels, we had some really high growth with another grade level with that. So it's hard to know what the effect was with some challenges along with that. And again, not an excuse. We're not happy with it. It's not where we can make growth with kids to have those things happen. And how we're going to respond to them within the school year. So that is the growth for math, and here it is for reading. And then, again, the free and reduced. So some of the things that we're working on, and our staff really felt an urgency with reading. So we've spent a lot of time already talking about reading and how to really instill the love of reading and the hard work that goes into it, the resiliency that you have to become a good reader. And we've talked a lot about what strategies we're going to do with that, and our instructional coach is working with that with teachers and grade levels. But our core values came out to be collaboration and human-centered were the top two, and then compassion and flexibility were tied for us at Halverson when we went through some exercises. So I broke this apart in looking at how we're looking at the year. And we have a continual focus on instruction. And so everything that we're doing, from our instructional coaching to our district leadership team, to our instructional leadership team at the building level, to our learning communities and our grade level teams, is an urgency that we are focused on decisions that support teachers that will have a high impact on students and their learning. And so the biggest change with that is the building level instructional leadership team. And we used to have a building leadership team, and the purpose always, as a leader, I couldn't keep it focused on instruction. So we revamped some things, and it is our facilitator group, and we are always talking about instruction when we have those meetings now. And so I'm definitely seeing that as a better way for us to move forward with high quality instruction and supporting teachers and what we're going to do to help our kids and make strong learners. And so the next piece is human-centered, and the biggest piece of that is, as you just saw, is our school counselor program. So that is a big focus of what we're developing this year, and the work that they will be doing together with our school social worker and myself as we work on some parenting attendance issues. And she definitely, it's not a second grader typically not wanting to come to school. A lot of times it's much deeper than that with some family things and working through with that. We have pretty good attendance at Halverson. It's not anything that's below the state average or anything, but what we find is that we have, at the kindergarten level, a lot of absences that we shouldn't be seeing, and so starting that habit early of not coming to school is not good. So we're focusing on that quite a bit too with families. Our Spirit, too, is working really hard. They have really done some brainstorming on how to improve family connections and involvement. And we do have some new members starting up with us this year, so we're really excited about that. They've really been reaching out to families on what can we do to help. They did a survey and some things like that. You know, what will bring you at the meetings. And that's a huge piece. That just creates such a positive place to increase those activities. We had our first parent night with our success coaches. I know the other schools talked about having that. We had ours a couple weeks ago. Had about 75 people at the meeting with our success coaches. And we were able to talk about attendance and concepts on homework, importance of reading, how you can be involved in the school. So very positive night for that. When my first year at Halverson, we did the same thing with our a different success coach at the time, and really great success coach. But it was my first year in the building, and we had about 15 leftover pizzas. So in this, we had one leftover pizza. So from the parents that said they were going to come 4 years ago, they did not come. And this year, the parents that said they were going to come, they came. And so that was a really great night for communication with them. So as a principal, it's my focus every single day on solutions and not barriers, so that we can grow our kids. Questions?
Questions or comments?
You'd mentioned a little bit about summer school. What's the approximate number that qualify for, and about how many attend, percentage-wise?
From Halverson? I don't have those numbers in front of me. I would say, I think generally speaking, about 100 students came from Halverson, 75 to 100.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Our last study session item is Hawthorne Elementary. Judy.
I'd like to do a stretch break, something. I don't know if there are advantages to going first or last, but here I am. Is it the red? Yep, it's the red. I would think it would look green. I'm just saying, I would think that should be green. Hello, everybody. I'm Judy Vitito, principal at Hawthorne Elementary, and just here to share the data with you, and then also just speak to what's happening at Hawthorne. So if you know that I had troubles with that, I'm sure you can anticipate this could be just as challenging. I really think I'll be okay. So if we look at demographics from the state, just to me, I think what's interesting, if you look at the bar graph with the English learner, special education, and the free and reduced lunch. So the free and reduced, those numbers, I'll make some comparisons in the next slide with those. So I'm going to head on over to the next one. And so our English learner at Hawthorne is just about at the state percentage, and our special education is also at the average. And our free and reduced is about 28% above the state average. So just to put that number in your head and tuck that away, that we're at Hawthorne as at Halverson as well as is above state average. So then if we look at proficiency for all students in math, we are just about at the state average. So the state is 58%, and we were at 56.6%. So, and we also increased just a titch, about 1.7% from 2016 to 2017. So I think that can speak to our work with Envisions. Yes, last year was our second year implementing that, and really just kind of continually improving the craft and the delivery of that, and the work that Albert Lee has done in the elementary level with that math curriculum, as well as number talks, and really kind of integrating a lot of productive struggle, critical thinking, depth of knowledge with math. And then reading, Minnesota state average is 60%, about 60%, and Hawthorne is below that at about 48%. So we know that's an area of focus for us, and we'll talk about that later on when we get to the initiatives. And then our proficiency for our free and reduced lunch, again, in the math, we are actually above the state average for free and reduced lunch, and have been. And then also for reading, we're right at the state average for that. Maybe a little bit below, but pretty close. So when we look at growth, we have I'd say it looks a little bit like an upward trend, so that's again a positive piece for Hawthorne students and the work that our educators are putting in there on a daily basis. And if you look at the growth, I just clumped the medium and high growth together, so we have 76% of our students, and I'm just rounding there, but they showed medium to high growth in math. And for reading, we have kind of a steady, it's just holding steady in reading. And again, to me, that's just indicative of the fact that we need to be focusing on some literacy instruction here and what we're going to be doing. And then also we had 65.8% of our students show medium to high growth. And that is the growth for our free and reduced lunch students. So a little bit of an upward trend going there. We are downward going there in math for a while, but had a nice peak this past year. And then reading again seems to just be holding steady. So I'd like to see that go a little bit in the upwards direction. So some building improvement initiatives. As you heard earlier this evening, there was a lot of discussion around our social emotional learning, the support with our guidance counselors and the work that they're doing in our buildings. And we know that the social emotional learning is really the foundation for getting the academics. And so just really value the guidance counselor as well as our social worker, and having those two together has really provided a nice system of support for our students as far as curriculum, small groups, individual groups. And then our teachers, we've had responsive classroom training this past summer for the responsive classroom 2. We have most of our teachers are trained in responsive classroom 1 as well. And so those, again, the responsive classroom practices really focus, again, on that social emotional learning and how relationships are really the foundation of what we do in a school. And you've got to have the relationship to get to that next level. And if any of you remember those teachers that have made an impact on you, it's a lot of that relationship building. And then maybe the ones that didn't, and there might not have been a relationship there. So we know that's important. The Hawthorne Cares. The C is cooperation, A is assertion, R responsibility, E empathy, and S self-control. And that is something that is part of responsive classroom, and knowing that if we're teaching children those particular skills, that they're going to be successful later on in life. And then we also have a focus on growth mindset. Each month there's a theme, and this theme is this month it's your brain is like a muscle that grows. So when you talk about that summer slide, your brain is like a muscle that grows, talks about the neuroplasticity of your brain and how building those pathways is really important, and you can do that through a lot of practice. So when things are challenging, you keep practicing it and coming back to it, and eventually you're going to get it. So just like that summer slide with reading, well, if you have that, again, getting back into it, practicing, remembering how you do it. So that's one aspect of growth mindset, but we do have a monthly theme, and teachers also implement that in their classrooms. And then continued work on a professional learning community. We had 4 teachers attend the PLC hybrid this summer. And those teachers are also our PLC facilitators, as well as part of that instructional learning team that Johanna also spoke to that's happening in Halverson. So we'll continue our work with just that plan, do, study, act cycle, which is really planning your lessons, planning your units, doing it, studying the data, and then saying, okay, what are we doing if kids have learned it? What are we doing if they haven't learned it? And that's answering part of those 4 critical questions. And how do we support our learners? And with that, we have some embedded professional learning occurring, and that is some student engagement strategies. There's a responsive classroom resource that we're using called Joyful Classroom, and it intentionally focuses on engaging students and what activities that you can incorporate, whether it's in math or reading, really across the curriculum to really engage learners, getting beyond the raising the hand, but actually getting to have conversations with one another and really just getting them excited about learning and engaged in that. In addition, we have our instructional coaches, which is just a great asset to have. They're already having many personalized coaching sessions with each teacher and discussing their professional goals and growth and embedding that into those IGPs. So that's, and of course, getting into classrooms and modeling, giving feedback, and really being a great support for instructional leadership and where we're going as a building. And then we also have community outreach occurring. We're partnering with our success coaches. We have a parent outreach meeting scheduled for October 11th, where we'll bring in our Karen and Hispanic-speaking families and have an event with them to talk about, what are ways that you can help your child be successful in school. So I'm open to questions or comments or.
To what do you attribute the high growth and then the high growth of all students and then the high proficiency of the free and reduced students in your building?
I think that it goes back to kind of goes back to what we have going on with look at our social emotional learning. We've put responsive classroom in place. That's there. Our teachers really focus on meeting kids where they're at. There are a lot of things that you could look at, but I know that, when I am in classrooms and when I'm having conversations with teachers, they're like, well, they're here, this is where they're at, how do we get them here? And they really focus on meeting, filling in some of those gaps and then moving on. So I would say that's a big piece of it. We know our students, have a lot of conversations with students when they're maybe needing some support, whether, the behavior support or whatever it is, and support them that way.
Two questions. I'm assuming that we have a common curriculum among all of our elementary schools in both reading and math. And then the second question is, to what extent is there collaboration among the 4 elementary schools? Do staff who teach 4th graders communicate with staff from other buildings who teach 4th graders and so on?
So yes, we have the common curriculum throughout the guaranteed viable curriculum that you've heard, I'm sure, and are familiar with, both the Envisions and Benchmark and more than the second step. So yes, I should credit Mary Jo with this, which is the initiative with the district level PLCs. So each, and I did not speak to that up there, and that should be up there with the professional learning community. So we have our district level PLCs, and so far we've met with, 5th grade has met as a district, 4th grade, 2nd and 3rd, and now we have K and 1 left. And then we'll meet again in January. So that's an opportunity to really dig into some of that district level work and sharing of practices. And right now we're building the collaboration piece because it's something that we haven't done for a while, right, Mary Jo? We haven't done it for a while? On different levels. Yeah, so we're just trying, on different levels, but as to come together as a whole grade level like that is not something that occurred. A few grade levels did it last year, but we're trying to be more consistent and intentional about bringing everyone together. And then in addition to that, we've also had conversation around trying some Google Hangouts so that teachers can collaborate in real time right then and there. And not have to wait until January if you've got some questions or you need some support from a colleague.
Any other questions or comments?
Just in general, I've appreciated receiving these updates, and I'm wondering if we can get these slideshows maybe sent to us from each building?
Sure.
Thank you.
Ashley, if you could have that happen, please. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, that completes our study session. I would entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved. Is there a second? Okay. Meeting's adjourned.